people of the verse, welcome to the channel. This is the Eradicator, and it is Friday. Well, it's the Thursday night for some of you guys, but here it's Friday, and so we are going to talk about the latest episode of Inside Star Citizen, and there's quite a couple of things that we're going to speak about here today. A pretty lengthy episode. Look at that, guys. Hallelujah. How long has it been since the last time we've had a 15-minute long episode? That's what we want to see. Thank you, Jared. Thank you very much. Well, you know what? I'm going to be a subscriber one more time in July because of this. I like that very much. So, boom. Eagle 6 Airsoft is also here. Nice to see you today, man. All right, well, let's get started right here. Yeah, for those of you who are wondering, I'm trying to live stream every week for the Inside Star Citizen episodes. So I'm here with all of the community here, and we're chatting in the chat as well. Yo, Man Solo, how are you doing today? So here we go. Let's check out what this is going to be about. It seems like we're talking about the flight models. So let's check it out right now. Oh, by the way, does that... I like that very much. Who remembers the original Origin 300 commercial? It kind of had that look, you know, that lightning, you know, that orange color. Of course, it wasn't Hurston, but it's a very nice nod here. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but for all the old timers like myself, this is a very nice nod to the Origin 300 series commercial, which was it released in 2012 or 2013? I don't remember, but it's like one of the oldest commercials we've had in the game. Looks like it.
We have a lot of teams at CIG. They all work in slightly different ways. So.
Oh, yes, John Crew. Oh, it's been a long time since we've seen John Crew in Inside Star Citizen. John Crew always has relevant things to say about Star Citizen, so glad to see him in the show.
Teams work differently to feature teams, but from playing the game and seeing how you guys play the game, it was clear that it was not quite working for flight and combat. So to rectify that, we created the vehicle experience team.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so they talked about the vehicle experience team in the past here. So apparently I think that this is going to be their very first major piece of work in a Star Citizen patch. So it's going to be a chance for us to see if this is something that's working. We know that some of the experiments they are trying at CIG is not always working. Let's think of staggered development, for example. But I'm quite confident about the success of the vehicle experience team here.
Small kind of specialist team, so we've all kind of got kind of core interests, and that really allows us to kind of provide good feedback.
Alright, so what do they say here? The vehicle experience team was formed in January 2020 from designers and programmers at CIG with a passion for realizing the fullest potential of ship flight and combat within Star Citizen and Squadron 42. Okay.
The really heavy IFCS bug, right? And we were like, oh my god, we fixed it, we fixed it. And it was like, oh, right. And I was like, oh my god, we fixed this thing, right?
A lot of our other internal teams are just dedicated to developing features, so they get the brief for a feature, they make the feature, they move on to the next feature.
We created some kind of basic...
Okay, so this is one of... Hey, what do we have here? A new follow on Twitch. All right. Thank you so much. Even though it's funny because I'm streaming on YouTube, but I get a follow on Twitch. That's very cool. Thank you. I didn't see who it was. I just heard a notification, but thank you very much, whoever you are. Thruster efficiency curves. So yeah, one of the things that a lot of people have been complaining about Star Citizen since the very beginning of planetary objects is that the flight model so far has been exactly the same in space and in atmosphere, with a couple of slight variations because of wind, but it wasn't too much here. In Star Citizen Alpha 3.7, from my understanding, is that we are going to have two completely different flight models based on the density of the atmosphere, based on the weather as well, and based on the gravity too.
That allowed us the freedom just to tackle them in a way that it was more about trying to discover what was wrong and how we could improve it and how we could implement it right, basically, this time. So, you know, that was kind of one of our goals, was just to improve the kind of core experience.
So one of the things that I hope this is going to remove, and this has been a problem for a very long time, is that in atmospheres, ships are acting as flying turrets. This is not the way it's supposed to be. I mean, ships can technically hover over ground, but that should be at the cost of a tremendous amount of fuel, which has not been the case right now. So hopefully, if ships want to hover above a certain area and then point down and fire at what's on the ground, acting like a flying turret, this has got to be very costly in terms of fuels, and ships should not be able to do such a thing for more than a couple of seconds, I would say. So hopefully this new flight model here is going to change that. By the way, Yogi Clad here, shout out to Yogi Clad, guys. Shout out to Yogi Clad, because Yogi Clad has been one of the most active devs on Spectrum over the past couple of weeks. He's been all over the place. He's been replying to a lot of comments on Spectrum. Every time I'm checking out, whether if a dev is being active on Spectrum, there's always a message from Yogi Clad that's popping up. So this is what we want, guys, from this. We want more dev interactions. We want devs to sometimes when we have questions, if they can give us a little answer, a little explanation, that's absolutely fantastic. Joseph Spat, thank you so much for the coffee, man. I will definitely be drinking some. That is really appreciated, man. Thank you so much. So yeah, that was my point here. Shout out to Yogi Clad.
Know upfront what's going to be fun, right? You have to experience these things, and so we kind of embrace that kind of uncertainty now.
So I'd say that the experimental kind of side to it has had its kind of pluses and minuses.
This way of working with like rough design goals meant that we get very short iteration loops and very
okay. It's too bad because we can't really see it, but there was like the new type of pip that's going to be available when you're on turret. So yeah, Star Citizen Alpha 3.10 is obviously going to improve turret gameplay. We've been knowing about this. I hope that they're going to show this in today's episode. By the way, this is in a hammerhead, as you can see, and
steps towards the actual combat experience.
And people are saying that the hammerhead now is a much more dangerous ship now that turrets are working properly.
As downside, it does actually add to the kind of timeline, because we end up kind of putting time into things possibly we won't ship as a feature, but overall we think that's a better kind of process.
Okay,
so the past few weeks we've kind of been putting the final tweaks on the atmospheric flight and the source efficiency. It hasn't been kind of a smooth journey, but we've been working with the tech team to kind of improve some of the problems we've discovered along the way.
Oh, I see what they're going to here. We're seeing they've been reworking on the M50. Here we're seeing the razors. Is it? And by the way, guys, apparently that we're not going to have any scramble races in Star Citizen Alpha 3.10 yet. They're not going to be in. So is this new atmospherical fight design a first introduction to future racing gameplay? Since we're also seeing the Razor here, would be interesting. What about new star systems, Mav? I don't know. We're probably going to see maybe Pyro in 3.12 or 4.0 by the end of this year.
So we want the atmospheric flight and combat to feel completely different to space flight and combat. It shouldn't just be the same model, but with some drag applied. We want it to feel more like the World War II flight experience. You want that combat ranges in closer, you want it more visceral, and you want to have a more dynamic experience.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. It's very funny because the whole World War II combat experience has becoming very fashionable lately. This is a type of expression that we've heard a lot from the developers of Star Wars Squadron when they were explaining how different the flight model in Star Wars Squadron is going to be compared to Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous. And yes, guys, this is where we can have our own little victory, by the way. Victory lap for us Star Citizen backers. The developers of Star Wars Squadrons are making references to Star Citizen. One of the reasons why we are having a Star Wars space sim game is because of everything that we've done with Star Citizen. So I think that we can give ourselves a little pat in the back here.
A big challenge with the atmospheric flight is the kind of wide range of planets we have. So we've got places like Lorville, where you come in and you've got like 60,000 feet of atmosphere to come down.
Oh my goodness, what are we looking What? This is gonna be so hard to fly in atmosphere, that 890 jump. Are they crushing?
Carrying like an 890 jump into that atmosphere, you're really going to ask yourself, do you really want to do this?
Yeah, right?
It's a lot of effort and a lot of planning to kind of land that ship correctly, and then you've got to take off and leave the atmosphere.
So
That's awesome. I'm really glad that they are taking under consideration those massive ships that are not aerodynamic, that are not designed to be flown in and out of atmosphere. But as of right now, I don't think that you have any other areas where you can spawn an 890 jump, right? It would make sense. You know what would make sense? It would make sense to have some of those extra large hangars on the space stations in orbit, but right now we don't have them, and we don't have docking, so we can't dock the 890 jump to any of the rest stops right now. But it doesn't, as they're saying here, it's not gonna make any sense to take off and land at some of those landing zones in an 890 jump. You are going to have to need shuttles that transport people from the landing zone to the 890 jump that's going to be in orbit, because the captains are not going to want to go down the surface. So that's what that's the way I believe these larger ships are going to work in the future. You're not going to take off from landing zones. They are going to be in orbit directly.
the shape of the ship and the wings affect pretty much everything on the ship handling.
Guys, here Yogi Glide is right one more time. The way a ship, how aerodynamic a ship is going to be extremely important for your flight in atmosphere. Which is why, guys, I'm trying to replace all of my caterpillars with C2 Hercules whenever I can, because as somebody who makes, trading is the staple of my income in the verse. I do some combat sometimes, I do a little bit of mining every now and then, but if you want to make a lot of money in the verse, you gotta trade. That's the way it works. And most of the places where people go trading are planetary and moon outposts. And the thing is that you're not going to go very fast with a caterpillar, which is not aerodynamic. However, the C2 Hercules, which is designed to be aerodynamic because it's built in a gas giant in Planet Crusader, is going to be the ship to go, in my opinion, for trading. And this new flight model that we're seeing that's coming up in Star Citizen Alpha 3.10 is going to be the first stepping stone for these future gameplay loops that are also going to affect traders. Hey Slumdog, I killed you a few times yesterday in Star Marine. I also killed you a few times yesterday in Star Marine, man. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Star Marine lately, guys.
And this is like something that's really important to me personally, because now I need to take care of my ship. I cannot just like speed up and hope that IFCS will correct all the errors that I'm doing with my piloting skills. No, IFCS cannot overcorrect everything.
The shape of the ship.
All right, okay. This is not going to be in the game, right? So the display lines represent the strength of lift and drag along the ship exterior surface. Blue line is lift, red line is drag. Oh, okay. So you have some little bit of drag here. Okay, very cool, very cool. This is not going to be visible, guys. This is just for the development tools, of course.
Affects the lift and drag. These debug planes, we size them to either increase or reduce the lift and drag in any given axis, and then that will increase or decrease the maneuverability of whatever axis you're traveling in.
Wow,
it gives
very
the
cool.
ships a lot of characteristics. So just to say, they're still very controllable compared to like planes or so, but they're acting more like planes. And this is like this. It just feels real. Like you feel the air you're going through.
Man,
So in terms.
I'm gonna have to practice a lot in the PTU. I'm gonna spend a lot of time in the PTU to practice, because and that's the thing, when you play Star Citizen a lot, and if you've been a Star Citizen backer for a long time, you get used to a certain iteration, but at the same time, that iteration is not the final one. There are going to be changes. It's temporary. And then there's a new one that's coming up, and you have to unlearn everything that you've learned and then adapt to the new iteration. But then there's going to be another one eventually at some point, and you're going to have to unlearn and learn it again. And And here we go again, guys. Star Citizen Alpha 3.10 is going to introduce that process again of unlearning and relearning again. The last time that it happened was in 3.6 when we had VTOL, which I loved, by the way. I really miss VTOL. But yeah, the problem with VTOL is that I think that the problem with VTOL is that most people did not take the time to learn how to use it. But when you knew how to use VTOL, you could make some really fantastic landings, and the ships were. It was like it kind of forced you to have like decouple a little bit, made me feel a little bit like decouple. But it was fantastic. Slumpov says, I challenge you to a trade-off when your Mercury's comes out, my cast versus your Hercules playing for pings. No, I'm not training off. I'm not training off my Hercules, Slumdog. Sorry about this.
In terms of like atmospheric, like the feeling just flying over the atmosphere now, or flying over a planet.
Snappy says, that's why I've been holding off learning the flight. Yeah, Snappy, you're right. That's also why I haven't done much flying compared to how I'm practicing FPS combat, for example. So you're waiting for it to become more stable, yeah.
It's immensely great now.
By the way, let's go back to Yogi Cloud here. Can somebody tell me what this is? This is looking very weird. I have no idea what this is. I'd like to know in the chat if you guys have any clue.
Really kind of going for is the ability of ships to be different, which means if you've got an M50, it's a racing ship, it's a light ship. You can pull some really extreme G in the corners, but you can also pull some really cool maneuvers. So when it comes to racing, that's really good to define kind of the racing experience once we have racing on planets.
Ah, there you go. Once we have racing on planets. So it's not going to come yet in Star Citizen Alpha 3.10.
But also it's going to...
Oh, it's an IR tracker, I see.
Take into consideration some of the larger ships and just the differences in performance of these ships and how the players compare them in atmosphere.
You'll want to bring the right ship for the job with regards to planets. If you've got a supply mission on a planet with thick atmospheric density, to avoid any knocks or any turbulence throwing your ship around and potentially causing you to crash, you might want to bring a beefier, heavier ship so you can have a more streamlined journey to your destination.
Okay, oh, that's very interesting, by the way. Did you hear what I said? Like, if you're going into a planet and you have to do some deliveries or some cargo, a heavy ship is going to flow through atmosphere better because the weight of the ship is going to counteract with the actual turbulences of the atmosphere. Whereas if your ship is lighter, it's going to be more subject to being blown away by a storm. Very interesting. Very interesting. Arabanu says, hey, you remember me? I was on your server and you wrote you in the game, ask you what you're doing, and you wrote as trading video. Did you release a trading video these days? Oh. Well, Ara, the reason why I didn't do that video is because my game crashed and I didn't have time to do it, and I found other things to do eventually. So that's the thing, you know, when sometimes with Star Citizen, when you are creating content, you want to say, hey, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then the game crashes, you get a 30k error, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do something else. So that's why that video didn't come up. Ara.
Weather's gonna play a big part in how players approach atmospheric flight. As let's say you were on microtech with very strong winds, the wind is going to blow your ship in certain directions, and you're going to want to counteract that. But it also means that as you're flying, these forces are going to change how you control your ship. So you might do a sharp right turn.
Wow, did you see how the atmosphere and how the weather is impacting that Razor here? How epic that looks.
And then the wind slightly overcooks it, meaning you'll crash if you're not careful.
If you crash or damage your ship, or rather manage to take out one of your thrusters, it's really going to pull in one direction.
Oh yeah, oh, this has happened to me this has happened to me many times, guys. You know, you land at a place and you're like, "Oh no, I'm way too fast." you're coming down there, you're way too fast, and well, your shield is absorbing most of the shock when you crash, but you're losing an engine, and I'm like, okay, that's okay, I can still land. Well, that's not going to be the case in 3.10 anymore. Look at that.
As a player, you've got to counteract that. So you've got to try and counterbalance a missing thruster. If you lose like a main thruster thruster and the ship's got 2, you're going to have to pull the ship slightly in one direction to still move forwards.
So in terms of like feel of flight, this is a massive step, which really, really excites me.
Wow.
So we want combat in Star Citizen to be a varied experience. We don't want there to be just a single way to win. We don't want people to be
By the way, look at the new pip here. This is not like that anymore. It looks like they're bringing the old pip. It kind of looks like how it used to be in 3.6, I don't know, in 2.6, sorry. Like back in the Star Citizen 2.x branch. The pips kind of look like this, and I'm glad that they're bringing it because we need to have bigger pips. When they're a little bit too small, it's really hard to really pinpoint where they are. It's really hard to follow them. So I like this tiny little change here. Little change, but it's going to have a big effect.
maxing stats. We don't want people to just rely on alpha strikes, and that really promotes player choice over just ship selection and item selection. So with everything being a lot closer and more dynamic and hectic, we needed to do some improvements to how targeting works.
We're moving towards a more look-based targeting system than an aim-based one. You can use head tracking or you can use free...
Head tracking, okay. Oh, so that's why he has the tracker, alright.
Look at different targets and scan around your space and see which ones are most interesting to you. And then when you found one, you can either lock it or you can pin it. And locking it is effectively, it gives you all the combat information.
So ships will be limited to 3-pin target as part of 3.10 release. So does that mean that we're gonna have more possible pin target? We'll see.
Available to you that you would expect. So you get shields, you get targeting pips, you get...
Oh, okay. So this is like one of the targets, and here's a second one, and here's a third one. So like this, we don't need to target all the ships at the same time. We already know which ones need to be destroyed, and they are in the HUD at the same time. Okay, that's very cool. That's because you see, guys, the two little arrows here. That's what we're talking about.
Get MFDs. You can only have one of these at a time, but you will need additional targets that you might want to care about, friendly targets or enemies that you might want to deal with later, things like this. That's what pins targets are for.
Pinning is something that we had in the early Arena Commander patches and which was lost over time.
Yes. We did have that in the past, that's right.
The maintenance overhead of the old UI tag. So with the new UI technology, the building blocks, we can bring pinning back. Though we will have them in a somewhat different format than we had before. The main aspect of pinning is that you can persistently target something and share it with your crew.
Yeah, Mav says, I just ordered my IR tracker earlier today, so it will be very nice. Yeah, but do we need a webcam for IR tracker? And how much does that cost? I'm gonna have to have a look here. This could be an interesting topic for a video, guys. I'll be thinking about it.
So it's not finished, right? We also want to have something like pinning shared with other ships and all that. But that, of course, will have to happen in later releases. For now, we have a solid first step, which we can iterate easily on. So if a pilot pins a target, the turret's going to see what this target is.
Oh, that's very cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. I like that, guys. I've been doing a couple of multi-crew sessions here, and this has always been a problem. As the pilot of a carrack, for example, I want to have several targets pinpoint. For example, couple of days, I mean, that was like 2 weeks ago, DG360 decided to stream snipe me, and I wanted all of my, I had targeted him, but I wanted all of my crew members to also target him at the same time. And, it was hard to find where it was. Not everybody had DG on site. So with that new pinpoint system, where, the pilot targets or pinpoints a particular enemy, all the other turrets are going to have that particular enemy targeted too. That is fantastic. Yeah, right. Finally, very nice, says Mansolo. Yep.
And they can then talk about it and coordinate their attacks based on that. One thing that we learned in the past is that you cannot ship a new feature if you do not have appropriate UI support.
Oh.
So for the turrets, we created a very barebone UI. That turret UI will tell you exactly where a turret is pointing. It will tell you about the state of the turret. It will tell you what kind of modes on the turret you have enabled. For example, combined versus staggered fire.
Turrets are now a threat. They deal damage, and so players are really going to have to reconsider how they might have approached combat scenarios.
The new turret system allows multi-crew
Okay, what is that? Is this part of the UI here, or is this just for the devs? It looks like it's just for the devs.
to be more viable in gameplay. We added a thing called fixed assist, and this is not just for the turrets, it's also
Okay, there it is. Look at that. Looking exactly like how it is for gimbals.
for the fixed weapons. It takes an angular offset between your current aim and the aim direction of your target, and then based on that ratio, and if we are within certain thresholds, it nudges your bullets a bit towards the target. As for the control method, we're included a VJoy style control scheme, which is the same that we're using in ships. So you're gonna have like a VJoy cursor on around your crosshair of the turrets, and by slaving that VJoy around, your turret will follow the motion.
Okay.
We also added a velocity limiter, so with your mouse wheel, just like in any other situation in the game, you can adapt your velocity, and for turrets that would be the rotational velocity. And this hookup with all the axis bindings makes actually quite nice to control turrets with a HOTAS as well. So you can just have your left hand on the throttle, which is then just controlling the turret speed, and with the rest you just control the turret direction.
Yeah, it's true. Who has ever been in the turret with a HOTAS? It probably must have been very difficult. So now this is going to make turrets much more dangerous than what they were before, and I think that it's also going to make turrets from smaller ships like I'm thinking of the Cutlass, for example, because I flew a Cutlass a lot in the past, and sometimes I had gunners, but I swear, guys, every time I had gunners, my gunners were never able to hit anything with the Cutlass. I have never been able to hit anything. But if this makes turrets viable at last, then I believe that those ships, Freelancer, Cutlass, Hurricane, the Hurricane, those ships are going to be much deadlier than what they were before. And it's going to be interesting to see the change.
It was quite easy.
Hey James, how are you?
Small fighters to be able to kind of overrun one of the larger ships, despite its many turrets available. Whereas now, you might find that you're a little more careful, you're a little more considerate, and maybe try and talk about your combat scenario before engaging a large ship.
Yeah. Got one. Two more guys.
Get some hype going.
Okay.
One more. You're nearly done.
Yeah.
Nearly
One's in
defeated
front
all
of
the
me.
gladiators.
So fighting a hammerhead. Fighting a hammerhead's never been easy, even with current turrets, but whoa, okay.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, it definitely
So
looks
the changes
easier
to
to
310
hit.
are the next step in the flight and combat experience. They're not the first, and they definitely won't be the last. We don't want there to be a single way of just winning combat no matter what. We
Okay,
don't
so
want-
track AR is about $150. Yeah, that's a bit pricey. Oh well, 3.10 will bring a lot of salty people with those new turrets. Well, I also think so, but at the same time, if they're salty, they better be in turrets too, right?
DPS races or min-maxing stats. We want you as a player to have as much influence over the outcome of combat as the ship you've selected. We know some players embrace change a lot and some are very scared of it, but we do encourage everyone to get in game and test it out for yourselves.
We will,
We're
sir.
really excited for these changes for Star Citizen, and we look forward to seeing what you do with them.
All right, that's awesome. That's awesome. Wow, you know what? This little video here really hyped me for the upcoming changes of Star Citizen Alpha 3.10, especially the new flight mode. I'm going to try the PDU as much as possible as soon as it comes out. By the way, we're going to talk about the latest patch notes later, so stay tuned, by the way. The volume of the video you are playing is quite low. Oh, that's weird. Let me try to make it a bit louder here. Can I make it louder? I'm afraid I can't. I can't make it louder, unfortunately, James. So there's nothing that I can do here. Well, it's something I'll try to look up in the future. Yeah. So I don't know what you guys think about the changes here for Star Citizen Alpha 3.10. Really excited about it. Don't go anywhere, guys, because next we're going to talk about all of the features, the other features that are coming up in Star Citizen Alpha 3.10. So stay tuned to the channel, and I'll see you guys later.